G'day, I'm Nathan Ahern, and I've been doing business for about, as long as I've ever had a job. I think I've had 2 jobs, when I was a young fella, just left uni. And this video is about a software as a service company called Vuid that was born out of a business that I created from nothing with my friend Jason Rudolph, who I'm still friends with today. And Vuid is probably my biggest failure. And not in monetary terms. It's like I forgot what it was to do business with Vuid. Like success went to my head and I couldn't quite work out what. Actually, it's not that success went to my head, it's that because I'd only ever really had mostly success up until this point, I'd never learned anything, even though I thought I had. I'd learned how to succeed, but I certainly hadn't learned how to fail. And this is about 2013. And Vuid was by far at this point my most funded venture. We put a lot of our own money into it. And it was about 46 different pieces of software all working together and in unison. It was a globally distributed ERP software system. Just going to grab my coffee. And it had accounting and messaging and files and it went on and on and on and on and on. And they were all, the user interface was incredible. It was incredibly pretty. And it was designed such, because what we wanted and how we'd run Red Dog was because we knew all of our information in real time. It made our business just incredibly efficient in regards to just being able to distribute information. But Vuid was a series of mistakes that culminated in it completely failing. Other than that, we built this system and flew to Web Summit in Ireland. We took 2 other staff members with us. Like, it was this incredible journey. Almost every facet of Vuid, other than the technology that we developed, was a complete failure. So we built Red Dog, which is where Vuid came from. And in Red Dog, we developed a piece of software that priced our customers' solutions in real time. So this was really early on, IT departments as a service. So essentially software as a service, but to the entire IT department. We developed this system that allowed us to price all that stuff. Asset management down to the minute. We'd built this incredible system, this ability to distribute help desk tickets and files and all this stuff that just made our business probably 3 times as efficient as it should have been, or it would have been if we'd been just a normal IT company storing information maybe in a file server or something like that. Ours was just this full-blown custom system that was incredible. You could pull up details of when someone had used a piece of equipment down to when it left the warehouse to when it came back, all of the issues that they'd ever had. You could pull up everything you could ever imagine. And so we were like, well, we've developed that. That's not what every other business wants. What every other business wants, we could see the benefits of this distributed information. What every other business needs is the ability to get their own information to their staff, really, really quickly, which is absolutely fascinating that we missed it that bad. And if you've watched a previous video about Red Dog technology, we left on the table between 10 and 100 times its value when we sold it because we didn't know its niche. We didn't know that specific thing that made it incredibly special. And so that carried forward into Vuid. And Vuid started out as building the newer version of the Red Dog software as a web-based system. And we were like, okay, well, we've already developed that. We'll develop all the other apps first, and then we'll develop the web-based version of what Red Dog had developed. It was like we were driving our car in reverse, flying our plane to the ground at full throttle, looking out the rear end, telling everyone all we could see was sky. It was absolutely fascinating, and we were certain about it. And we'd even done testing, and we had customers. We had really high value customers that were going to take up our system. And obviously today, if you looked around, there's plenty of small and medium business ERP systems that are incredibly valuable, and people use them. But we didn't have the sort of funds that would allow us to carry a piece of software like this for that long. That we didn't have the marketing experience at all. We never really marketed Red Dog because we didn't. We tried to market it. And this is an interesting result. We tried to market it, and we've marketed it to people, and they were like, "Oh, we don't know what that is." Now, today, what's that? 11 years after we sold Red Dog, I can look back and tell you that it was because we were selling it to our customers, or people who were using our IT solutions, when our real customers are other IT companies who would have loved to have gotten on board the IT department as a service model many years before anyone else did. And the business would have been incredibly successful. But yeah, it was back to Vuid, this software. We spent, I think, 3 years, started in 2013, ran it until 2016 and realized we just could not carry the bills on this. And I don't know, I remember Jason and I sitting out the front, and I'd say to Jason, maybe we're not as good a businessmen as we think we are. But I couldn't tell you why I kept thinking that. And when Vuid, we shut Vuid down, and we developed containers on FreeBSD. So if you're a bit of a nerd, a bit of a virtualization nerd, containers on FreeBSD didn't exist. We used it because it had the ZSH file system, which allowed us to do, really, really high availability software RAID, which was super important to not lose customer data. We did things like we had a completely globally distributed piece of software, so it didn't matter what data center went down, Vuid would stay up. The underlying technology was incredible, but we developed the wrong bit of software. No one wanted a files storage system. They could get Google Drive. It was pretty average. It wasn't anywhere near as good as today, but it was enough. There wasn't really a premium. And then all of our base customers that were going to take it, they got into financial trouble. So now we've got this bit of software. It's sort of 2015, and they've gone, bad. And we're like, we've sold Red Dog, and we're like, this is not good. So we carried it for one more year, tried to work out how the hell we were going to sell this thing, and then had to call it quits. And that was a sobering moment for me, a very sobering moment, because the realization was that we'd spent all of our money on the software, and we'd spend none of it on the marketing. We were so enamored with our success at Red Dog that we hadn't seen how to repeatedly create that same success. And it wasn't just a Red Dog, it was the previous businesses. We'd leveled up each and every time. And now we're standing there holding, I don't even know how many lines of code, 46 separate, essentially, servers that all worked in unison and collaborated together globally. And we're thinking to ourselves, what are we going to do with this stuff? We don't even know how to sell it. And we tried, but we hadn't gotten any sales outside of the core customer base that said they'd take it on board when we first started developing it. So it's this real moment of, hell, I've missed something. A lot. I can't talk for Jason. I know he was disappointed as well, but I was incredibly disappointed because I was the person who was leading the project. And I wasn't quite sure how we failed. I think we had doubled down 26 times until that point and succeeded each time. We'd come out on top. And this was the only time where I had to stop and go, holy moly. And so looking back now, we missed everything except the software infrastructure. I, to this day, am incredibly proud of that system. It was, and the team was sensational. But what was really missing was that understanding of what our niche was, which is probably why I'm so passionate about niche today. Like, what's that paradigm shift thing that you're developing? What's your business? What's the paradigm shift for your business? What's that thing that has people go, it's an easy sell. And it's also an easy yes, but it's also an easy no. You either want McDonald's or you don't. You either want a cup of coffee or you don't. We didn't have a niche. We were an ERP selling to people who probably weren't quite certain they needed an ERP and probably could have built something that wasn't, or probably could have used something that wasn't an ERP. And our feature set, while it was very, very good, was not as big as of our competitors. We had gone down the upper route, which is really, really high quality features, but only ones that worked really, really well. An incredible file, an incredible permission system. It was very easy to use. And it was interesting, we actually didn't realize that we had not worked out how to succeed again, because we then pivoted Vuid into essentially a permission system for software systems across a bunch of different platforms. But again, we didn't know how to market it. And I'll create a video about that later. That's a piece of software called Ruler. It was more successful than Vuid. It wasn't anywhere near as big of a failure. But in essence, we got two failures, one after another. 26 double downs, success, two hard fails. And Jason and I put it down to that we worked so much in the business at Red Dog that we didn't spend enough time working on the business. And so we were never fully aware of what it was that we were really great at. And, I remember back in the days thinking to myself, we probably should have done a hell of a lot more getaways, just me and Jason. Fishing trips, camping trips, just stuff that took our mind off the day-to-day, got people in management in Red Dog, and we would have seen what it was that we were building there, and we would have definitely seen that the Vuid was a mistake. Because those moments where Jason and I would sit out the front and have a drink at lunchtime and in the evening for about half an hour every day, we're at work, and there was just this niggling feeling, I think, in both of our minds that we'd missed something, but we weren't sure what it was. Same with Red Dog. We talked about marketing Red Dog, but we were just never successful. Red Dog was successful because it was such a good business model and so innovative and new. It was almost successful despite us. Vuid was not successful despite us. It failed to get it got customers, but it never got a large enough single customer or even multiples to break even. It actually may have broken even, but it wasn't worth the expense of developing it in the time. And we could just see that there was no runway there. So the biggest takeaway, if you're watching this video and you're thinking to yourself, geez, this guy's being vulnerable, he's sharing a colossal series of mistakes that went on for really, in a lot of ways, 4 or 5 years. And this was, mind you, just after I'd watched Nathan Tinkler go bankrupt. and I didn't know how to stop that either. So he'd gone bankrupt, we'd sold Red Dog, then Vuid had, collapsed, or we knew Vuid was collapsing. And then we built Red Dog and it wasn't, and Ruler, and then it wasn't as successful. And so there was just this series of failures, in inverted commas, that all happened within a very short period of time. And when they happen and you can't turn them around, the only person that you can blame is you. So there was a lot of self-reflection in the failure of Vuid. A lot of trust lost between Jason and I because we weren't quite sure how we got it so wrong. And we'd spent, huge sums of money. Vuid was we started Red Dog to make money to build the big thing, and that big thing we decided was Vuid. What's crazy is that Vuid wasn't the big thing, it was Red Dog. And why we didn't see that is we didn't take enough time out. It would have been very, very smart of us to take 2 days off a week and sit there bored, getting massages in a park with not a lot to say, and just sitting there looking at, what our niche is. What are the great things about Red Dog? What are not the great things about Red Dog? But we didn't do that. So in the end, we have a pile of code that we still have today that has never been used in any real extensive way that is Vuid, but a lot of learning lessons. And what can I say about learning out of Vuid? I have learned more out of the Tinkler failure and the Vuid failure than I have learned out of any of my successes or any other success I've ever been involved with, purely because I was forced to learn. I didn't have a choice. There was no way for me to escape the failure, the things that I'd missed. I had to look for them, or I was determined. I was going to do it again. And so what I learned was, for every dollar you spend on development or building your business, you should spend $1 on marketing. And if you're not willing to do that, if you're not even willing to spend 50 cents to every dollar you spend on developing your business, you're going to have a very challenging business to operate. Your business should be a sales and marketing first business, and not in that, I run into a few people that occurs to them as sleazy, or it's inappropriate, or they've got some story about sales and marketing. No, sales and marketing really should start the day you start the idea. You should go out and you should test it. You should go out and ask people what they think. You should get feedback. You should look for what that niche is. You should see if it's unique. What would people pay for it? Like that, you're marketing it. Sales and marketing should start before you even start building it. And if you don't do that, you're going to find it very difficult, and maybe even just luck that you've pulled it off. Oh, some people do. Like with Red Dog, you could say it was luck that we pulled it off and that we came up with the idea. And I've run into many, many entrepreneurs who've had that same experience. It's just pure luck they pulled it off, and I don't know how to repeat the second process. Out of the 10x to 100x left on the table for Red Dog, the failure with Nathan Tinkler's businesses, and I wasn't able to, stop that from happening, or at least I would like to have been able to have conversations with him that allowed him to see that it was going the way it was going, and I wasn't able to. And the Vuid failure, I am now doing sales and marketing about ideas the minute they start. And that has produced sustainable success over a long period of time. It certainly hasn't produced, the explosion of success that Red Dog did, purely because what I intended to do after Vuid and Red Dog and all those failures was to go, how the hell am I going to repeat the success of Red Dog? How do you even know that, that that you've picked a great idea, or if you've picked an idea in a particular location, what's the niche bit? Generally, if people are looking into a specific area, like people looking at crypto, millions and millions and millions of people are looking there. No one's worked out the thing that's going to have crypto explode quite yet. Someone might have invented it now, and I don't know. No one's invented it yet, but we're all looking. So if you're looking in an area, there's generally something that you're looking at and saying, hey, look, this is something that I think is something going on here. And then you've got to work out what that niche is. And that requires sales and marketing straight off the bat. A lot of people want to produce a product first. They want to get out and build the solution and then find the problem. That is a huge mistake. You go out, you ask people what they want. The sales process is finding out what people want in the area that you're looking at. Marketing this particular idea to people. Saying, hey, what would you pay? You could ask anyone, really. They can just say no, and then now you've got this great database of people straight off the bat. That's what I think is incredibly important to do. That's what I've learned out of that Vuid and Red Dog, and I specifically built Bronze Betty, which I don't know if I've created a video for yet. I don't think I have. I specifically chose Bronze Betty because I knew it was a business that wasn't going to explode overnight. It wasn't a Red Dog. It wasn't buying something really undervalued asset and turning it into something really valuable. It wasn't a fantastic idea. It was a reliable business that I could put the things that I knew. I wasn't sure, did they succeed or not? Build a business. How do I build something that I have no natural ability in, so I can't do things like technology, I can't do things like that? How do I create the success of Red Dog again? And then how do I teach that to other people? Because if I can't teach that to other people, I can't share what I've learned with the people I work with, the business people, the entrepreneurs, the investors, people like yourself. Maybe we might end up working together. I can't share what I've known with them, so I know what success is, but I've got to share my failures, what I missed. That's super important. And so when the next idea that a Red Dog comes up, or a really huge opportunity comes up, I'm aware of the niche right there and then. Or at least I know to keep looking. And I know that sales and marketing is incredibly important. It's the most important thing, because if you're not providing what a customer wants, then you're going to leave like we did with 10x or 100x. Our customer at Red Dog was never the people who used our IT solutions. Our customer was other IT companies, but we never ever went and found one. We never worked with another IT company. We never sold our software to them. We didn't ever say to them, if we'd ever said to them, man, check this out, we've got this really, really great idea. So how today, you charge per hour for software and hardware and all that sort of fixing stuff. How there's software as a service where they pay a flat monthly fee and they get this huge system that's just, everyone uses the same thing. It's really easy it's really reliable. It's way better than a whole bunch of different installations on computers that you've got to maintain and keep up to date. You've got all these different versions. It's just one version on the web. So imagine that as a software as a service. Imagine that in IT departments. Your customers pay one flat monthly fee. They pay $220 a month for a laptop. It's got unlimited support, full help desk support. They're leasing the hardware and the software. You're just sending it out to them. If there's a problem, you replace it. This is the way it's going to go. The same way that it went with software, it's going to go with the IT departments. I know that so many IT departments would have said yes. IT companies, they would have said 100%, we're in. I know IT departments within giant corporations would have said yes, because they get, our software was designed such you could use it as a transfer pricing model. So the software at Red Dog would allow you to charge each department for exactly what it costs to run their IT for each department. You don't have to charge a profit margin. You could just take the margin off, and our software would quite literally price each person's solution perfectly based on the wages cost of each person who's providing support, the cost of capital for providing, the equipment, repairs, all that sort of stuff. The system just calculated. It was an incredible piece of software. We didn't get one of those customers. So that's why I think, as far as I'm aware today, based on the successes and failures that I've had, which is that sales and marketing are by far the most important things to do in a business, and they are not about getting people to buy your stuff. They're about producing products and services that your customers want. Revolutionizing a market, making it better, faster, or cheaper. Preferably all three if you can. And that's it. That's the golden goose. That's $1 billion failure rate at Tinkler. Probably $90 million to $100 million left on the table for Red Dog. And, 6 million on Vuid. So what's that? Does it really, let's just say at 1.1 bill, that's a lot of money. That was 2016. So it's probably a hell of a lot more money by that now, in today's dollars. Sales and marketing. Work out what your customers want, spend a lot of time on that. Work out what your niche is, spend a lot of time on that. Work out what the niche of your business is, spend a lot of time on that. And if you aren't getting people who are saying, yes, I want that, you don't know your niche yet. You haven't done the work that you need to do, which is fine. If you want to learn how to run a business, you want to have an average business that doesn't have hyper success or grows very slowly over 40 years, do it that way. Just do the grind. But if you really want to develop something that's exceptional, go out, find an industry that you're interested in that's in your niche, go out and find out what people really want. And work out, what would they buy repeatedly over and over and over again? What can you sell them to service their needs repeatedly over and over and over again? That's the $1.1-ish billion lesson I learnt. Thank goodness it wasn't all my money. That would be, I think that I'd still be crying into my breakfast in the morning every now and again, just as I remembered. But it certainly was it was 5 years. 5 years of hard work. So 2021-ish, 2022 maybe, I was still teasing apart each and every part of what didn't work. So hope you got something from that. Probably a long one. If you've got any questions, just throw them in the bottom. If you want to work with me, there's some links down the bottom. Send me a message. Email me, however you want to get in contact with me. You'll be able to find my details links down the bottom, or just search me on the internet, Nathan Ahern. If you're doing something cool, love to work with you. If you're not doing something cool, reach out. We might be able to do something cool. I'm always looking for cool people to do cool things with. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.